1 year after over 200 girls were abducted from their school in Chibok community in Borno State by Boko Haram, the memory of the ugly incident remained fresh in the mind of Nigerians as the rest of the world joins Nigeria to commemorate 1 year of the girls' captivity in the den of the extremists. MITV correspondent in Oyo State, Anoluwapo Moride, in this report examines issues surrounding the fate of the abducted girls. He completes the report.
It is exactly 1 year today that the Chibok community in Borno State was thrown into confusion. Over 200 secondary school girls had gone to the government secondary school in the town to write their final examination. But rather than write the examination that would have paved way for their educational advancement, they were abducted by the Boko Haram militants. Some people have expressed belief that the girls may have been killed by the fleeing militants, while others are hopeful that the girls are alive, but there is no clue to where they might be. One of the people who believe that the girls may have been killed is Barrister Adebayo Shitu.
I would say that unfortunately, I believe that the Chibok girls must have all been executed. From reports, when the Chibok girls were being routed out in the last 6 weeks, they executed their own wives because they couldn't imagine other people taking over their wives. How much less other people's children who were in their care.
However, Mrs. Betty Akeredolu, the Oyo State coordinator of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, believes that with the commitment of the president-elect, retired Major General Muhammadu Buhari, to the freedom of the girls, there is hope for their rescue.
There is hope rising. You know why I say so? A new kid is on the block, even if the new kid is a baba. And that's why the hope is rising. And yesterday, General Buhari released a press statement. And for even joining us in remembering this day, he would want to do something.
Hope had risen with offensive attack launched on the insurgents by the Joint Force of Nigerian Army and their counterparts from neighboring countries. But Nigerian military has refused to speak on the fate of the girls 1 year after their abduction. But no doubt, the pride of Nigeria as the giant of Africa remains questionable in the international community as long as the abducted Chibok school girls remain in the custody of their abductors. In Ibadan, Anoluwapo Moride, MITV News.
Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Minister of Finance, on Tuesday said the government was still committed to ensuring the rescue of the abducted Chibok girls 1 year after their abduction. Okonjo-Iweala made the pledge at a meeting with representatives of the Chibok community in Abuja on Tuesday on the Safe School initiative. The minister was represented on the occasion by Mrs. Anastasia Nwaubia, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance. She said that the meeting was part of efforts to let the community know that the rescue of the girls, reconstruction of schools, and making Chibok safe remains top priority of the government.
Brave girls, we call them brave girls in Chibok. They were callously taken away from us, their friends, families, colleagues, and with the aim of depriving them of having quality education. Their absence may create a vacuum in space, but they are in our minds. It has not created a vacuum in our minds. They are very much alive in our minds, to an end soon.
What we want to hear from government is what are the specifics steps government is taking towards the rescue of these girls. It's a pain that we live with every day. People have died. People are in very critical health conditions as a result of it. You can build a school, definitely. My niece was taken, she doesn't want to hear anything about school. The scar on her is permanent. She was one of those that jumped out of the truck. She does not want to hear the word school. Out of the 57, you would find out that she's one of the few that are lost. or have dropped off this program of finding schools for them. And her father, who is my cousin, is in support of her. He doesn't have tried to get her school. So the pain in the heart of the Chibok people, it's about these girls. The narratives are very, very unsettling. Today we know where they are. Tomorrow we do not know.
The Supreme Court on Tuesday affirmed Ayodele Fayose as the duly elected governor of Ekiti State in the June 21, 2014 election in a unanimous decision by the 7-man panel led by Justice John Fabiyi. The Apex Court upheld the earlier decisions of the Court of Appeal and the Ekiti State Governorship Election Tribunal, which had both earlier ruled that the petition challenging Fayose's victory lacked merit. In the lead judgment delivered by Justice Sylvester Nwuta, the Apex Court dismissed all the grounds of appeal filed by the petitioner, the All Progressives Congress, and resolved all 4 issues arising from the appeal against the party. Dissatisfied by the results declared by the INEC, the APC had filed a petition urging the Ekiti State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, which sat in Abuja, to nullify the election. Governor Ayo Fayose of Ekiti State has called on the people of the state to be united and allow peace to reign supreme in the state. The governor stated this in Ado-Ekiti immediately after Supreme Court sitting in Abuja upheld his election. Correspondent Abidemi Sikiru has more on the story. We'll bring you that report later. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has described Tuesday's Supreme Court ruling upholding the election of Ekiti State Governor Ayo Fayose as a triumph of democracy and the rule of law. The National Publicity Secretary, Olisa Metu, in a statement on Tuesday, said that the ruling has given hope to the survival of democracy, especially coming at a time when some officials of key institutions of democracy, such as INEC and some security personnel, have already started compromising their independence, apparently under the dictates of an obsessive APC. The party congratulated Governor Fayose and the people of Ekiti State for their doggedness in the face of daunting challenges from anti-democratic forces and urged the governor to be magnanimous in victory while using his mandate to deliver good governance in line with the PDP manifesto and vision of the Founding Fathers. The PDP restated its resolve to continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the governor and the people of the state and vowed to resist any form of political intimidation or blackmail aimed at destabilizing the state. The President of the Senate, Senator David Mark, has commended President Goodluck Jonathan for accepting the victory of General Muhammadu Buhari as the winner of the 2015 presidential elections, adding that the singular act saved Nigeria from possible crisis and catastrophe. He gave the commendation on Tuesday in his welcome speech to senators on resumption of plenary from 2 weeks recess. He also extended felicitation to the President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari, for extending hand of fellowship to President Jonathan and his team, saying it will further reinforce the unity and peace of the society, thereby adding value to the consolidation of democracy in the country. National Assembly correspondent Folashade Abdusalami reports that it was further noted that the gestures brought into the polity after the elections by the political players proved wrong. The doomsday prophets who had earlier predicted disasters for the country before the election. He, however, commended INEC chairman Professor Atahiru Jaga and his team on the introduction of the card readers, which he said added value to the electoral process, and he advised that the new voting technology should indeed be imbibed.
I'm happy to note that Nigerians hearkened to our persistent appeals for a peaceful and violence-free election. The outcomes of the elections have greatly disappointed doomsday prophets who predicted disaster and even a possible breakup of this country. In this regard, I would like to commend the maturity and sportsmanship displayed by President Goodluck Jonathan GCFR, who willingly considered defeat and immediately congratulated the President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, even before the Independent National Electoral Commission announced the results. That singular act saved us from a possible crisis and catastrophe. The President's action added value to the consolidation of democracy in our land. It raised the benchmark of peaceful democratic transition and consequently set a new democratic template in our continent.
Pandemonium ensued Tuesday morning as two factional leadership of Trade Union Congress clashed in Osun State over the commencement of a 3-day warning strike declared by the labor unions. Correspondent Abbas Okodeji reports that the journalists who were at the scene of the incident were not spared in the attack. Here is the detailed report.
It all began Monday afternoon when a factional leadership of the Trade Union Congress in Osun State announced a 3-day warning strike, directing workers to keep off ministries, departments, and government agencies. Alas, there came a disagreement from the other faction, saying those declaring the industrial action are not the true representatives of the workers. And so, the battle line was drawn between the faction calling for strike and the other, which sees no reason for workers to take the directive. Tuesday morning, the gate of the state government secretariat at Abiri was the battleground for the two factions where they slug it out. Thugs who came in the official bus belonging to the Francis Adetunji-led faction of the TUC threw dangerous materials such as stone and empty bottles all over the place. Journalists were not equally spared in the attack. After beating up Channels Television cameraman, his camera was equally seized and taken away. The two factional chairmen of the TUC react to the pandemonium.
Civil servant does not know who is a pressman or who is not a pressman. By the time they were giving me the report, the person that called me said they were thugs. Please, I take exception to that. These are senior officers in the state. Those people that were on that committee that went to Abere today, there's no one that is less than level 10 there. Level 10 above were on that entourage. They were there to monitor the strike, which is the normal thing for labor to do.
Adetunji Francis Oladele gave them that boss from the Civil Service Commission. They assemble a civil service club, GRA. They move out from that place to this place. And they came with those thugs with bottles, with machetes, to disturb those who want to go in to do their lawful job. It was a pathetic situation. And if you said you are a labor leader or a civil servant, one should be civil enough to know what to do and not what to do.
At the scene of the incident, 2 persons were arrested in connection with the pandemonium. From Osogbo, Abbas Okodeji, MITV News.
The Lagos state government has called on well-meaning Nigerians to disregard the rumor in the social media on the return of Ebola virus disease in the state. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Jide Idris, who made this known while speaking with the media in Lagos, explained that the rumor concerning 2 Chinese visitors from Sierra Leone, which was posted on Twitter, claiming that the 2 Chinese died of EVD at Lut same day, was investigated, and Lut confirmed that to be completely untrue. Jide Idris urged Lagosians and the public to observe good environmental and personal hygiene, especially regular hand washing and proper waste disposal. However, enjoined the public to disregard the above EVD rumor.
Join to disregard the above EVD rumor and peacefully go about their lawful business while taking the following preventive measures. Observe good environmental and personal hygiene, especially regular hand washing and proper waste disposal. Ensure thorough washing of fruits and other edible items before eating. Ensure thorough cooking of food items before eating. And report any suspected case of Ebola or any known travelers from Ebola-affected countries with a history of persistent fever by calling the helpline 0800 Ebola Help or 0800-32652-4357. The Lagos State government and indeed the federal government remain committed to ensuring that Lagos State and Nigeria remain Ebola-free.
You're still watching the primetime news on MITV. Up next are business-related stories with Annie Ray. Annie Ray was trending on the business scene.
Yes, Jonathan seeks National Assembly approval of NDDC 299 billion naira budget.
Well, this and more after this break.
Welcome again to Business Stories. President Goodluck Jonathan on Tuesday wrote to the Senate seeking his approval for the 2015 budget of the Niger Delta Development Commission, estimated at 299.5 billion naira. The amount is 23.1 billion naira lesser than that of 2014, which was 322.6 billion naira. Jonathan, in the letter read on the floor by Senate President David Mark, said he was acting on pursuant to Section 18-1 of the NDDC Establishment Act for the kind consideration and approval of the National Assembly. Jonathan also explained that the budget would be funded with ecological fund of 40 billion naira and other internally realized income estimated at 100 million naira, amounting to the total sum of 300.1 billion naira. Meanwhile, the absence of the chairman, the Senate Committee on Appropriation, Senator Ahmed Machido, stalled the formal presentation of its report on the 2015 national budget on the floor of the upper chamber on Tuesday. The Central Bank of Nigeria plans to withdraw 72 billion naira from deposit money banks to enforce its cash reserve requirement as triggered by a surge in demand for funds on the interbank market. Development has led to a sharp increase in overnight lending rates as banks rush for funds to meet the CBN's cash reserve requirements. Data from the FMDQ show that overnight lending rates had jumped to 27% as of Friday, up from 10.25% the previous week. The CBN requires banks to set aside 75% of public sector and 15% of private sector deposits in cash in their respective accounts with the regulator. That's our business news. Over now to Jimmy as she gives us the foreign stories. Stay with us.
Welcome to the Foreign News segment. The United Nations Security Council has imposed an arms embargo on Yemen's Houthi rebels and allies, including former President Ali Abdullah Saleh and his son. A resolution demanded that the Houthis stop fighting and urged all sides to resume UN-brokered negotiations. A Saudi-led coalition launched a military campaign 2 weeks ago to stop the rebels advancing and restore President Abdurabu Mansur Hadi. Airstrikes and fighting on the ground have pushed Yemen towards collapse. The UN says at least 736 people have been killed and 2,700 injured since 26 March, but officials believe the actual death toll may be far higher. Al-Qaeda in Yemen have announced that a top Saudi leader in the organization has been killed by a U.S. airstrike. The group said in a statement on Tuesday that Ibrahim al-Rubaish was killed in a drone attack 2 days earlier. The group did not specify where the purported strike took place. The death of al-Rubaish may be a sign that the covert U.S. drone program against Yemen's branch of the armed group continues, despite the evacuation of American military advisors from the country amid a worsening civil war. Yemeni and U.S. officials had no immediate comment on the claim. Al-Rubaish was released from Guantanamo Bay in 2006, after which he joined Al-Qaeda in Yemen. He was considered the group's main ideologue and theological advisor, and his writings and sermons were prominent in its publications. Islamic State IS has lost more than a quarter of its territory in Iraq since the US-led coalition air campaign began in August. Colonel Steve Warren said it was too early to say the tide was turning, but that airstrikes and Iraqi ground forces had unquestionably inflicted some damage. IS took over swaths of Iraq and Syria last June. The announcement came ahead of talks between Iraq's Prime Minister and US President Barack Obama in Washington. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi wants the coalition to step up its air campaign against IS. Still on the primetime news, up next are sports stories.